I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the workplace therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted. This is the Brandon Smith Show, and I am your host, Brandon Smith. And the entire purpose of this show is one singular thing, and that is to help you live a life free from dysfunction. So, Whitney, hello.
Hi.
That's when you say hello. That's your cue.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous again. You've been making me very nervous in the last couple of shows.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is, for those of you who are joining us today, this is our Leadership Therapy Week. So we are going to be taking on a topic on leadership therapy. And it just so happens our topic today is anxiety.
I'm very happy to be back, really. So
Isaac is happy too.
Look, I told you when we let him on once, there was no going back.
He's out of the box. It's okay. I like Isaac out of the box.
It's done.
My two favorite producers, out of the box.
Well, you know what they say. One's always a little bit more of the favorite.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, that's maybe that's true. So
I hold time in my hands.
You do hold time.
So
and you know what? I was thinking about it this week that one of the great producers of anxiety is time.
It's true. I could just clear it out right there.
Just creates a urgency in you because, I got to hurry up. You don't want to be late.
Deadlines, yes.
And I don't think I can recall any time in the modern workplace where there's been more anxiety throughout the workplace. More people just dealing with anxiety issues.
I was thinking that this week because time is just flying so fast and you're like, okay, today's Friday, tomorrow's Monday. It's just so much.
And you have more to do. I feel we all have way more to do these days.
Yeah. And this guy, I'm holding my phone up, it has not helped us any.
Mm-hmm.
This has made it worse.
You're within immediate reach.
Immediate reach. And we thought this was going to make our lives easier because we had accessibility. We had all these things we could do on our phones. Essentially, it's our roaming office. But it allowed us to work anytime, any place. And to be accessible anytime, any place. Mm-hmm. So time is our most precious resource today in life. And the technology we have around us has just created more pressure, more anxiety, more stuff we need to get done, more things we need to respond to, and not enough time to get it done.
I feel like just about the time I feel like I'm catching up, I'm behind again. Something else gets added onto the to-do list.
Mm-hmm. I was on vacation a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that during that time, even though I had my out of office stuff going on, people still were like, no, I need an answer from you.
It's true.
I was on vacation.
What did you do? I have to ask you because I know your rules on this. Did you break your own rule?
Yes, I did. I'm a horrible failure.
It was coming.
I'm so sorry. For all of you listening, I'm sorry. I feel like a fraud and a phony. I did. I responded to some of them, but I didn't. So what I did was early in the morning before my family got moving, I would grab my laptop, go out into an open space in the hotel, and then I would just respond to some emails, about 30 minutes. Mostly just responding to the ones I had to, and the rest I just flagged for coming back to.
That's not too bad.
It wasn't horrible, but yeah. But it was on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It was creating anxiety, and I needed to get it out of my head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little about anxiety today.
Okay.
I want to talk about why it's so pervasive and the causes of it, and then what we can do about it. So first of all, workplace anxiety. So anxiety that comes from work, it's often going to come from two main sources and then a third. So I'm going to give you kind of two plus a bonus. Okay. So the first one is not enough time or resources to get something done. Right? So you're told to get something done, but you're either not given enough time to do it or enough resources, people, tools, whatever it happens to take, money. So that can cause anxiety. The second way we can get anxiety is being asked to solve a problem and not having enough information to solve it. So that creates us guessing in our head. So either of those two forms can wake us up in the middle of the night.
Which totally opens you up for mistakes, by the way. Guessing is never a good
Not
remedy.
a good strategy.
Yeah.
I highly recommend not going to Las Vegas in your career. Not a good idea.
Right.
Not a good idea to guess and gamble.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so the antidote for these first two, I'll give you the antidote for these first two before I go into my third one. The antidote for these first two is the same. Drive clarity. Ask more questions. So go to your boss who's asking you to get something done with not enough resources or time and say, happy to get this work on this, but because of the limited resources or time, you're only going to get this. If you give me more things, then you get this. So go back and create kind of a menu of options to let them see. And then if you don't have enough information, ask more questions. Try and get more information. Say, I don't have enough information. I'm going to use this as a assumption or a proxy. So again, just asking questions. If we don't do those two things, and that's when we wake up in the middle of the night thinking about work, and it causes just unnecessary anxiety. Now, there's a bonus that I mentioned, hinted at. The bonus, the other way we can have more anxiety at work is reporting to a leader or manager that is a highly anxious person. So they push that energy down to us.
So it's contagious emotion.
Emotions are contagious, absolutely. Like the TED Talk I did last year. Emotions are contagious, and anxiety can be a contagious emotion. And so they're anxious all the time. They're going to make us anxious just being around them. And that's not healthy either. And one of the common things I see in the workplace today is, and many of you listening to this are going to nod your head in agreement. Just make sure that if you're driving, you're not nodding yourself, not nodding and not paying attention to the road, is everything's urgent.
Or the treadmill.
Or the treadmill. That's very true. Isaac, thank you. Don't need any treadmill accidents. Everything's urgent. I hear this so much in workplaces today. Everything's urgent. And so if everything is urgent, what's urgent?
When I read something recently that said sometimes you have to focus on what's important, not necessarily what's urgent. I'm like, it's really hard to tell the difference sometimes, because when everything is presented as this is really important, it was, do yesterday. This is urgent. Do yesterday. It's hard to decide what to do and tackle the list of things.
I don't know about you, but for me, email and having it so accessible with me, it makes everything feel urgent. Because I want to, they've asked me a question, I want to quickly respond.
Of course.
Partly because I want to be responsive, but also partly because I don't want that to fill up my inbox. And then all of a sudden, I've got 150, 250 emails that I need to respond to. So I want to keep it clean, so to speak. Makes it feel urgent, when really it's probably not urgent. But it creates that. So there's this constant kind of anxiety in the system.
And if you're a productivity nerd like I am constantly searching for something to help with that. I've tried so many different email apps and to-do apps and not track managers, task trackers to try to get a handle on things.
Yeah.
So maybe I had a question. This is probably a different show, probably something to talk about in the future, but in anxiety, and is it tied along with doing the right thing? Like, because it all goes with anxiety, doing the right thing, importance, having your list, what's first. Not because it's important, I mean, is that to do now, or it's just a question. What
is it? So yeah, not necessarily. So anxiety may not be tied with doing the right thing. It may be tied to just feeling that energy, that need to move forward. But you may actually be moving too fast. It's possible that you move too fast because of urgency or anxiety. You're not moving at the right pace. Kind of the example was my experience on my vacation was very much because all the people who were asking me things were pushing their urgency and anxiety on me. I was on vacation. They didn't care. They wanted to get it off their plate as quick as possible. So it's a really pervasive problem. Now, there's a couple things we can do to manage it for ourselves. One is I'm huge on clarifying expectations. So it's kind of like asking those questions around what do we need to get done, or what are the trade-offs. Clarifying expectations eliminates a lot of anxiety. So the more we can ask questions of what others expect of us, what others expect to get done, force them to have healthy discussions on trade-offs, that can help reduce our anxiety because it can help focus us.
Does that go into communicating what you can offer in that time to others? So for example, say if you were on vacation and you have that, away message, maybe it says, I'm on vacation. I will try to answer your message, but you may not see a response from me until 3 days from now.
It can be, but I did exactly that. So I said, I'm not going to be responsive. I'm not going to have access. You'll get a response back to me on this date. If you need immediate assistance, contact my assistant.
Wow.
And some of them did,
Mm-hmm.
just for scheduling purposes.
Right.
But others just, they didn't care.
Wow. Maybe that's its whole, that's a whole nother show on its own.
So that hints at, so the first one is clarifying expectations. I'm going to give us three big ways we can make this work for our lives. First one's clarifying expectations. Second one's setting boundaries. And that's what this is. This is setting boundaries. So you're saying I'm not, if we allow ourselves to be accessible all the time, 24/7, that's going to create anxiety as well. Because we're always going to feel like we got to be checking our phones. And that can create an issue. I remember way back in the day when Bob Nardelli was CEO of Home Depot, not known for being a good CEO, created a lot of unnecessary anxiety. His direct reports, he had a rule with his direct reports that they had 15 minutes to respond to any email or voicemail that he left with them. And they had Blackberries back then. So a lot of his direct reports said they would sleep with their phone underneath their pillow in case it went off. Otherwise, they would get fired if they didn't respond. So he created a lot of that. So you want to make sure you can set healthy boundaries and say, I'm not available during these times, and train people on that. A lot of consulting firms do that today with clients. They'll tell their consultants, don't respond to a client request after 5 o'clock on Friday, before 9 a.m. on Monday, because you're going to end up training the client that you're available all the time. And we want you to have time to recharge.
Once you do it once, you kind of have to keep up that pace.
So clarifying expectations is our first one. Second one, setting boundaries. And the third one, exercise. Exercise is the healthiest, easiest way to burn off anxiety. So anxiety is energy. So one of the ways you can overcome that energy is with energy. So you burn it off. The target would be 40 minutes of cardio. That's when the endorphins start to kick in and you see that anxiety start to wane a little bit. And so I'm feeling particularly anxious. I've not worked out much this month.
I was like, is that a day or each week?
Perfect world, you'd want to be doing that. I would recommend more than 3 times a week. I would recommend more like 4 to 5. And it doesn't have to be intense cardio. It can be just walking on the treadmill at a high pace, or using the elliptical machine, or swimming. It doesn't have to be going for 5-mile runs. For some people it is. That's what they do.
Well, and one of your, I believe it was Eric Holtzclaw, one of your previous guests, he said, while it sounds contradictory if you step away from something that you need to do for a minute, I mean, I feel that way. There are many times where if I just go outside and kind of walk around and listen to the birds and feel the, well, I guess it would be hot air because we're in June now, but just getting that refreshing outside, clear your mind, has a very calming effect as well. And it just clears your mind.
Yeah, totally.
Question about that, Brandon, since depending on building on the trust formula. So if you have that trust formula, will that help on the anxiety? Because you already have a relationship with the person and you know that you will respond as soon as you can.
Yeah, it can give you more, they'll give you more grace if they trust you. And they're also more likely to have an open, honest conversation when you try and clarify expectations. So if you build trust, absolutely, makes all this easier. They'll respect your boundaries. You can have healthier conversations around clarifying. And you can even tell them, hey, I'm going to go for a run. I got to get it, I got to hit the gym, or just to help me mentally keep my sanity.
And can you repeat that trust formula just for the people who are
yes,
listening for the
so
first
trust,
time?
If you're listening for the first time, trust is a very simple formula, but an important one. It is so you got to put on your math hats here. It's in parentheses, authenticity plus vulnerability, in parentheses. Okay, so whatever that total is, multiply times credibility equals trust. Okay, so it's authenticity plus vulnerability in parentheses. The sum of that times credibility gets us trust. And the reason why it's a multiplication formula and not an addition formula is if the sum of authenticity vulnerability goes to 0, then anything times 0 is 0. So there's no trust. If credibility goes to 0, anything times 0 is 0. There's no trust. So if you can build trust with others, then it's also going to help us manage our anxiety a lot better, because we can be more honest and candid and have and be able to ask people for what we need. So again, our cure for workplace anxiety: clarify our expectations, set healthy boundaries, get some exercise, 3 to 5 times a week, 40 minutes of cardio. And Whitney, we have to take a break. It is time.
I've got another question when we come back.
So when we come back, we'll
Okay.
wrap this up on anxiety. Hopefully you won't be too anxious during the break.
I am a little bit. Feel
Okay.
like creeping back up.
Creeping back up. We could go for a little walk during the break.
She
That'd be
doesn't have her
nice.
chips.
Maybe get some
Her
food.
chips. She gets anxious when there's no food.
It's
Hangry. And then you said you have a question from a listener for me.
Always.
Okay. All right.
Another good one.
We'll take that on. You're not going to tell me what it is?
I never do.
I'm feeling a little anxious.
Yeah.
Feeling a little uncomfortable. Okay. You don't seem to care. Oh, you like this. So stay tuned. We'll be right back from our break, and we will continue with where we left off.
Job plus the right culture plus the right boss equals workplace happiness. The number one reason people leave jobs is problems with their boss. A horrible boss can make us dread every Monday, but an amazing boss can make us so excited to work that we'd go in on weekends. Finding your perfect boss is not only possible, it's one of the most impactful steps you can take in crafting your perfect career. Visit theworkplacetherapist.com and click on guides to learn how to find and get your perfect boss, whether that means making the decision to move on or turning your current boss into the perfect leader you want them to be. Our bosses have so much influence over our work and our whole day. Working for the right boss alone can be a winning career strategy.
Welcome back to the Brandon Smith Show. We have just come back from our break. And for those of you who are just joining us, we've been talking about anxiety and how to eliminate anxiety and deal with workplace-related anxiety. Now, before we jump into this, just as a reminder for those of you listening and watching, there are many ways to continue to stay connected and help in the fight against dysfunction. You can follow us on Twitter at the WP Therapist for workplace, WP Therapist, the WP Therapist, and Facebook, facebook.com/Brandon Smith WPT for workplace therapist. So join us, keep following us. We love to put out more and more content to help you make your lives a little bit better. So with that, Whitney, you said you have some questions, and you actually said during the break, you said, really, it's all about me anyway, and I want to ask questions about me and my, isn't that something like
Nobody was supposed to know that part.
Oh, okay.
Wah, wah, wah.
I was
Now
like,
we know
really?
it.
I need leadership therapy. Okay, this one is not for me, but I do have a really good knack for picking out these questions.
Oh, so this is our listener question.
Yes, this
All
is
right,
the
hit me.
listener question first. Okay,
I'm ready.
here we go. I have an immediate problem with one of my employees who, while being generally efficient with his work, often sounds upset or abrupt when speaking on the phone, which is what he does most of his job. So most of this particular employee's job is talking with clients, making contracts, things like that, but he sounds upset on the phone. Being stationed in the office, he manages people who work in the field. He speaks with clients and referrals. His mood has been up and down at times, and that reflects in his communication. On several occasions, I've spoken with him, and he tends to improve immediately following our meeting, but then he goes right back into his normal behavior. Yesterday, I received a call from a most significant contract stating that people at the organization don't want to work with him. What should I do?
Oh, this is very bad. This is very, very bad. Okay, so we've got an issue here where this person's presence. I'm being sensitive to this because I don't want to say it's necessarily their mood. It could be their mood, but some people just are not good on the phone. I've had clients before who are amazing in person, And over the phone, people experience them as judgmental, not warm, not caring. They just can't convey any kind of energy or warmth over the phone. So we've got an issue related to this. Now, what makes this a bigger, more serious issue is you have this key customer or contract or client saying, we don't want to work with this person. We are really at that place where things need to change. Otherwise, this individual who's having the issues is going to have to find another home. So I think the first thing I would recommend is you need to sit down with this individual and say, this has become a serious thing. And we now have this issue. Now, before you have that conversation with that person, you also need to ask yourself, how much resources are we willing to invest to try and make this better? Do we want to try and fix this? Is this something we really want to fix? Or is it really better for us to just say, this is not the right role for you?
Because he sounds like a pretty good employee other than his
Sounds pretty good.
phone skills.
So let's chat a little bit about that. So we've got two options here, with resources, without resources. Okay. And so with resources, then the best strategy I'd highly recommend is you go hire a coach for this person. And what a good coach will do is this coach will interview other people and gather feedback to present to that individual on exactly what's happening, exactly what it's costing him or her, and exactly what they need to be doing to change that behavior. So a coach's job is to drive clarity. And good 360 interviews can do that really, really well. But that's going to cost you money. You may not have the money or want to invest in that employee. But my experience is that can result in a 60 to 70% success rate in terms of sustained change. So that's the first thing. You got money, you got resources, hire a coach. You don't. Now let's talk about if you don't have money. Okay, we don't have money or we don't want to invest the money. Then you have two options. One, let's take this person out of a client or customer facing role and put him or her into a role that doesn't deal with those key contacts because they're not getting the vibe that we want them to get. So maybe we have them just do something internal, or we put them in more of a support role. So is there another place in the company to move this person? That's our first option. Our second option is, we're sorry, this isn't working out. We need to part ways.
Wow.
And you invite them to find another home. But the best way to do that is you spend some time helping them think about what would be good next steps, helping them come up with a plan. That's the right thing to do. Most employers, when they let somebody go, don't do that. And that's a shame because that really is the best gift you can give someone when you're letting them go, is to help them think about another plan. So
the first step, give them another chance because they seem to be an overall well-rounded employee. And then if they don't change, the next step of letting them go. Yeah.
Give them another chance only if you're going to invest in a coach. Because here's the thing. They've already had conversations with this person.
Right.
And it hasn't worked. So I don't think they're really, really clear on either what this is costing them or what they need to be doing differently. So that's why a coach needs to be brought in to drive clarity. Because without a coach, when you're giving that kind of feedback, without more information, it's kind of like waking up and looking in the mirror, or not waking up, after you've taken a shower in the morning and you look in the mirror and it's foggy from the hot shower. That's what this person is seeing. And you need this person to see the mirror really clear. So there's no fog. But you got to have resources for that.
Wow.
Otherwise, find another place inside. And you may decide that's where you're at, because if it's a key customer or a client, you don't really want to mess around with that.
Right.
It'll cost you a lot more money.
I think that was good. Very helpful answer.
Okay, good.
Now for the other listener, and not me.
Not you. No, this is not you.
Not me. It's a friend of a friend.
This is a friend. Okay.
So we've talked a lot about anxiety and kind of the different forms that
anxiety.
Comes
you can
in.
Say it.
Yes, I can't.
You kind of whispered it.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
What are some things that we can do? And one that I want to ask is that okay that maybe we block off time to get things done? So what if every day we take a little bit of time and say, okay, for this hour, I'm not going to respond to emails. I'm not going to take any meetings. Maybe we put a sign on the door or put the headphones in to say it's focus time to get things done. What are some tactical ways that we can kind of reclaim a little bit of our space?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It falls in that category of boundaries. So remember, our antidotes for anxiety are any of these three, or all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Clarify expectations, set boundaries, exercise. So what you're asking about is in the boundaries category.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, set aside time, blocks. Find what works for you, but set aside time and blocks and protect those. That also relates to even exercise. Set aside the times where you like to exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some people are early morning risers and love to exercise at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. I admire those people.
Yes.
That's not me. I'm more of like a 4:30 in the afternoon exercise kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So protecting those times, but absolutely you can set times to do emails
Mm-hmm.
and close the door, and that's perfectly appropriate as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ways to do that the right way, and there's ways to do that the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So to give us a more popular example of the wrong way to set boundaries, this was about a month ago, and I did an interview for the New York Post on this. Steve Harvey put out a memo
Yes.
trying to set boundaries with his staff, but he ended up just using all caps and yelling at his staff and saying, stop coming into my dressing room whenever you want. And unless you have an appointment, you can't see me. It became, he took that anxiety he was feeling
Mm-hmm.
and he channeled it into negative emotion
Mm-hmm.
when he communicated it. And that's not helpful.
It's like write the email, save it in drafts.
Yeah, and
then
review
come
it.
back to it.
But, creating systems for setting boundaries is absolutely important.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client of mine, and inside her office door, so imagine you open up an office door, and on the side, she had about 20 different Post-it notes just sticking on the wall. And each Post-it note had something different written on it. So whenever she was in a meeting or going somewhere, she would grab the appropriate Post-it note, stick it on the outside of her door.
Nice.
So one says, I've gone to lunch. Other one is, I'm in a meeting. Other one is, I'm on a conference call, whatever. And she would just grab it and stick it outside. So it's a nice way to set boundaries and let people know, hey, I'm protecting my time right now.
I like that.
How do you fix that? So let's say Steve Harvey, what would be the next step for him now that he made the mistake to solve it?
Well, I think he's going to have to sit down with his staff and have a personal conversation with them and just say, hey, I'm sorry, I apologize for the way that message came out. However, it doesn't change the fact that the way that we've been operating is creating so much anxiety for me that it's not allowing me to be productive. And I've got to have my personal time and my space in order for me to operate at my best. So here's how we're going to do it going forward. And then give them a system or structure to follow.
When I think of Randy Hain, too, that you've had on before, I mean, it can just be as simple of the mornings are his meeting time. If you want a meeting with Randy, you schedule it in the morning because the evenings are protected for family.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, you set your times for doing that stuff. Absolutely. When I was blogging a lot more frequently, I'm not doing it as much now as I wish I was, but I was doing it, I would block off every Monday morning. Every Monday morning I was blogging. That was my time to do that.
Nice.
So just protecting that time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay. Was that helpful for your friend?
I think so.
I would want to make sure that she or he,
I'll ask.
is okay with that.
I know that they're listening.
Oh, well, of course. I would expect that. Okay.
Leave a message.
All right. So we took on a great question from a listener. We talked about anxiety and how to overcome that. I think this was a good show.
I'm kind of nervous about the ending.
Yes. You're putting pressure on me. You're making me feel more anxious.
Sorry. Can I get a Post-it note in here?
You afraid I'm going to blow up the ending like I normally do?
It's not 1 minute. Yes.
Yes, you are afraid of that. Okay. Well, I'm going to do my very best not to. So thank you all for listening and join our fight against dysfunction every single week at 9 a.m. Eastern. And where a new episode drops, and you can listen to it on iTunes, like you probably are, or you can watch it on Facebook, facebook.com/Brandon Smith, WPT for Workplace Therapist. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at the WP Therapist. And check out my site, The Workplace Therapist. Got resources and blogs and articles and interviews and videos, all for you. All with the singular purpose of making your work and life free from dysfunction.
You should probably wrap it up now.
So Thank you. This will be Whitney's last show with us today. So thank you, Whitney, for joining us. We are
You're doing
sorry
really
to see you go.
Thank you, Whitney.
It is time for you to find another home. So for all of the rest of you listening, until next week, have an awesome week and an awesome life. I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the Workplace Therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted.